After my Conjuring review, even though that the film was an entertaining watch, probably because I watched it with friends, and also in the video, I kept calling it Conjuring the Last Rites instead of The Conjuring Last Rites, so there's that. Anyway, I criticized its horror elements because it was just not scary. Now, here I am trying to find a horror movie that is scary, to test my big boy pants badge, to prove that I am a man, god damn it. I said to myself, time to bring out the big guns, which in this case, a possessed child that's restrained in a bed, confronted by two priests. Okay, that's the only priest joke that I'm going to make, because I don't want to be banished to the Shadow Realm. In 1973, William Friedkin's The Exorcist didn't just scare audiences, it redefined horror. It became the first horror film nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, grossed over 400 million worldwide, and sparked fainting, walkouts, and even protests. But today, with decades of horror evolution behind us, does The Exorcist still hold up? And what makes it remain the undisputed king of possession films? The film's opening in northern Iraq shows Father Merrin on an archaeological dig where he unearths an ancient demon's totem, signaling an ancient, foreboding battle between good and evil, before cutting into the film's main setting in Georgetown. The genius of The Exorcist begins with its grounding in the ordinary. Main character, Chris MacNeil, a successful actress and single mother, lives a comfortable life with her daughter, Regan. Their home is warm, familiar, and safe. By showing us this everyday life in Georgetown, the film establishes a baseline of normalcy. When things begin to go wrong, strange noises in the attic, Regan's sudden mood swings and disturbing outbursts, the contrast feels jarring. Horror works best when it interrupts what we recognize as real, and Friedkin uses this to devastating effects. Ellen Burstyn delivers a raw, heartbreaking performance as Chris, a mother helplessly watching her child unravel.
Oh, what are you talking about, for Christ's sakes? Did you see her or not? She's acting like she's fucking out of her mind, psychotic, like a split personality or...
Jason Miller, in his film debut, portrays Father Damien Karras, a man drowning in guilt and doubt.
I think I've lost my faith, Tom.
His faith is shattered by the loss of his mother. The late great Max von Sydow's Father Merrin enters late in the film, but instantly commands respect.
Worthless cocksucker.
Be silent!
Man, I should really be watching The Seventh Seal after this. Merrin is a priest who has already battled this evil before.
The demon is a liar. He will like to confuse us. But he will also mix lies with the truth to attack us.
And of course, Linda Blair's Regan MacNeil is unforgettable. Her transformation from playful child to monstrous vessel of the demon remains one of the most chilling in cinema. These performances keep the story rooted in humanity. For their performances, Ellen Burstyn, Jason Miller, and Linda Blair were all nominated for their respective acting category at the Oscars, a rare achievement for horror movies. The film spent significant time showing Regan's descent through a medical lens. Doctors run invasive tests, psychiatric consultations pile up, and Chris becomes increasingly desperate. Kudos to Friedkin and his team for making these medical tests as scary as the demonic sequences later in the film. This motherfucker right here is a future murderer. These scenes, while slow to modern viewers, serve an important purpose. They exhaust rational explanations before turning to the supernatural. This is what makes The Exorcist stand out, as it isn't really a horror movie in a sense, traditionally. It's more of a drama where characters are dealing with their daily lives and struggles. It isn't until the second half where shit has hit the fan and the characters know that they are dealing with indeed the supernatural. The exorcism only feels credible because every other possibility has failed. Eventually, Chris seeks help from Father Karras, who is torn between skepticism and belief.
Well, it just doesn't happen anymore, Miss McNeil.
Oh, yes? Since when?
Well, since we learned about mental illness, paranoia, schizophrenia, all those things they taught me at Harvard.
It is only when all hope seems lost that the church sends Father Merrin, who arrives in this house with this iconic shot that will go down in horror movie history.
It's an honor to meet you, Father.
Their climactic battle with the demon, the levitation, the vomiting, and the chilling taunts.
And I'm the devil.
It's not just spectacle, but a clash of faith, science, and human endurance. On a technical side, The Exorcist remains remarkable. The practical effects, from Regan's head spinning to the bed shaking violently, feel visceral precisely because they are real objects on set. The makeup done by Dick Smith transforms Linda Blair into something both human and inhuman. And this face is what scared the living shit out of me back in the day, creating an image that still unsettles today. I absolutely adore the living hell out of this film's sound design. There's no obnoxious loud music during jump scares, just scary stuff happening on screen. Beyond the horror lies a story about belief. Father Karras' crisis of faith mirrors the audience's skepticism. Is this really possession, or is it something explainable? Medicine fails, psychiatry fails, and ultimately, the only answer left is spiritual. Father Merrin represents unshaken belief, an old warrior confronting a familiar enemy. The tension between doubt and faith, despair and hope, gives the story its enduring resonance. Evil in The Exorcist isn't just a monster under the bed, it's the terrifying possibility that suffering is real, personal, and without any answers. Yet after everything that I have said, the film is not without flaws. Its pacing, especially during the medical tests, can feel sluggish to modern audiences accustomed to fast cuts and immediate scares. Critics argue that the spectacle of Regan's suffering borders on exploitation, particularly in the infamous crucifix scene, which remains disturbing even by today's standards. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just watch the film for yourselves. And this infamous incident, which actually made it into the film, where Ellen Burstyn being slammed violently into the floor, which led to a permanent spinal injury, this is completely reprehensible on William Friedkin's part. Others point out that the narrowness of its worldview, presenting Catholic exorcism as the only valid framework for understanding evil. These criticisms don't erase the film's power though, but they remind us that it's both a product of its time and a work open to scrutiny. The influence of The Exorcist is immeasurable. Nearly every possession films that came after, such as The Conjuring to The Exorcism of Emily Rose, borrows its imagery, its structure, and its atmosphere here. And I know what you're going to say, that the Conjuring films are based on real-life events. I'm not claiming that The Exorcist invented exorcism. It's just that the film in that franchise, or for this case, every other demonic possession movie in the genre, owes heavily to this film. The projectile vomiting, the levitating bed, the priest holding up a crucifix, these tropes exist because The Exorcist embodied them into popular imagination. It proved that horror can be both a box office powerhouse and a critically respected art form, paving the way for serious discussions of horror as cinema, not just entertainment. So to wrap this thing up, does The Exorcist still holds up today? The answer is, yep, I think so, though without its caveats. For starters, I'm not as scared of this film compared to when I was younger, probably because my fears are now existential rather than the supernatural. Its pacing and cultural assumptions may feel dated at times, and its shocks are no longer as unprecedented as they were once, probably because that's the result of having a film become super popular and super iconic. Almost everyone knows the plot of this film and where it's headed, but its sincerity, craftsmanship, and thematic ambition remain unmatched. Plus, with a very solid plot and capital A-tier acting, it's not just a horror film, but a meditation on faith, fragility, and a terrifying possibility of evil. That's why 50 years later, in my opinion, it remains undisputed as the greatest possession film ever made, a story that still possesses us. And with that being said, I think I'll see you guys around.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karras, you faithless swine.